Hey, howdy! Today, I guess we're going back to basics. It's been more than a second since I've done Tuki, but I'm glad to be back. In the all of 3 days that I spent not playing. So, first off, there's been a new patch. So, if I go into the Dream Apartments, there's actually a new location. But not the kind of new location that I was expecting. Right here. The Dream Wardrobe. I love the aesthetic of this place, but give me a moment to check. I forget exactly where it is. A closet in the center of the world. Well, that doesn't really narrow it down. This place is really ominous. So apparently somewhere in here you can get the, what are they called? You can get the portal effects. I'm not actually sure where you get it from. You definitely get it from one of these. That is such a cool area to just have as a throwaway area, because equipping the rune effect is hard otherwise. That is a good area to just add on a lark. But on to the dailies and the weekly. Dailies Forest Pier, which is easy as pie, and Restored Character World is a little bit harder, but I think I have the connection unlocked. Forest Pier is, or I didn't even have to leave Dream Apartments for it. Forest Pier is super easy. Character World I think is easy, though it's been a second. So, a couple of funny things. The first funny thing that comes to mind for me, hang on, let me turn down the sound on my end a little bit. I had the sound turned up a little bit. But, yeah, it is just from Restored Character World. Is that correct? Surely there's something more to it than this. Maybe you have to unlock this connection or something. Yeah, there you go. Unlock from the opposite entrance. And this is unlocked from all the way up in Blueberry Farm, so I'm glad I have this unlocked. And I guess it's the weekend, not the weekly, so... And then vending machine. That's in Black Building again, isn't it? So, on to what I was going to talk about. So, I want to give a little bit of an apology for the, what was it called? Curse of Balls. That does require a little bit of explanation to just come out of nowhere and just randomly post that. So, what happened there is, a bit ago, when I made the Curse of the Giant thing for Isaac, it got decently popular, and then I slowly started to realize that it was just broken, because Curse of the Giant is not finished. Someone said at one point, like, hey, this doesn't really work, hey, this doesn't work on the alt path. So I tested it, and it was crashing on the alt path. And then out of curiosity, I tested it on the normal path. And then it crashed there. and then I tested on even floors and it crashed, and then I tested on odd floors and it crashed, and I realized that it just randomly crashes sometimes for no good reason. Because, as it turns out, the unfinished curse is in fact unfinished. Oops. But the silver lining is that I was able to keep it around as an API instead, because the way that I constructed it, it works pretty well even then, just as a generic API. Also, let me go over and grab this menu theme. I don't believe I have yet. So I just have to keep going until I find multiple symbols. But someone in the comments made some offhand joke, because it's the Isaac community and it's full of a bunch of freaking teenagers. Said something along the lines of, oh great, now I have to go and make my new curse of balls. I responded like, if you want, I can just make it for you, because that sounds hilarious. And I did. And I published the video, and it's so fascinating what ended up happening. Because to give an idea of how my videos usually perform, it's usually somewhere in the ballpark of like 70 views or so. Sometimes like a few of them, mainly depending on the thumbnail and depending on like ones like episodes that are like 500 or 250 or like have some big event like the Lavender when I got the platinum badge tend to do better. Most of the time it's around like 60 or 70. Over the course of like a day and a half, that video got 1,500 views, and then it just stopped. It was a flash in the pan in a way that I've basically never seen before. It went almost directly. Where the heck is Shell Lake? I've never seen this. Shell Lake Clover Ponds. It's a Nantai world. Interesting. I'll have to go there next. But it was such a fascinating thing because it showed such a different crowd of people than the ones that normally watch these videos. Because I don't think it's a stretch to say that the hardcore Isaac communities and the hardcore Isaac community and hardcore Tuki community are basically mutually exclusive. I am one of like probably 25 people that's in that overlap. And one of probably like 2 that actually makes mods. We're to rainbow tiles and then clover ponds. So green, I guess? Yeah, green. But it was so funny looking at the analytics, because I'm gonna be honest, I'm a little bit of a data junkie, and it makes me happy that this channel is doing well, because being able to just look at data and look at information is very cool. And I mean, yeah, it's just cool. There's not really much else to say about it. Being able to see like, oh, this video did well, this video did worse. Maybe not to explain why, but more just to see the numbers change is very cool to me. But the numbers for the Isaac video were just so different. What am I... Something about a hot spring? Ooh. Well, this is cool. Wait. I kind of came here on accident. This looks pretty. But, with the Isaac stuff, it is so radically different. First off, from what I saw when I checked, the people who watch the videos are 100% in the age bracket of being under, I want to say under 20? and specifically between like 17 and 20. And I mean, basically none of them were subscribed, which was to be expected because they had been they were coming to my channel presumably for the first time. But I also noticed on that day when I uploaded that video... Oh, it's over here. The average view time tanked. So it's not just that a bunch of people watched it, a bunch of people watched like 20 seconds of it. I don't know what that says about like the attention span, but... Ooh, wait, Viridescent Temple. Lavender Waters, I'll do that. That could be fun. But the subscription thing was especially funny because even though it really showed the least, it shows like basically out of the people who watch the video, how many of them have subscribed. Usually the amount is like 30% or something, and you know what? For never explicitly bringing it up, that's pretty good. I don't think I've even said the word subscribe in any of these videos before. But 30% off of that is great. Going from that to 1%, it was very, very funny. Onto a different topic of discussion, though. I've been continuing I have a bit of a funny side project. I forget if I've mentioned this in the past, but I play a lot of TF2 in my off time. And something I've always wanted to do is to have every single president of the United States on a conscientious objector and kind of just cart them around randomly. All of them except the new ones. I think at present my cutoff is Bill Clinton. Because after a certain point, the joke is kind of lost if it's a recent president, because people just assume I'm making a political statement, which I'm not. This is more just for fun and because American history is funny. So I was just reading through, I'm just like reading through Wikipedia articles of presidents and like taking notes and finding funny things that happen, or that happened. And there's wild stuff. And it's wild stuff that I've never learned in school before, which makes it especially fun. Because I'm learning about a lot of these things for the first time. The ones that come to mind for me are Grover Cleveland, James Buchanan, and Millard Fillmore. I forget if I've actually told the story about Grover Cleveland, but long story short, Grover Cleveland generally he was regarded by the popular vote as a pretty good president. And just reading the Wikipedia article, that kind of confirmed it. He didn't do anything that was too egregious. He was kind of he was good as like a what's the word for it? A communicator and moderator between the political parties. But fun thing about Grover Cleveland is that near the end of his second term, he was told by his doctor that he had what might be a cancerous growth on the top of the roof of his mouth, like on his palate. And that he should have surgery to have it removed, because obviously, you know, the faster you remove a tumor with surgery, the lower the chance of it killing you, which is always good. But Of course, there's the trouble that he was currently the president of the United States, and if anyone found out what was happening, they would have freaked. Because any yellow journalism or not, any news outlet would jump at the opportunity to print stories. President has cancer on in surgery on deathbed question mark. Not to mention it's not great for public morale either if your president just suddenly has cancer. So what they did, this has a funny ending, I promise. Because obviously Grover Cleveland lived out to the end of his term. He went with his surgeon on a cruise. he went with I forget if it was just one surgeon or if it was like a team of surgeons. And had surgery to remove that cancerous tumor while on a cruise, and told the American public that he was going on a vacation to the Bahamas, basically. Which, that's hilarious, frankly. And most people were fooled by it. Some people were a little bit suspicious. Especially because, what's the word for it? His jaw was slightly disfigured because of it, and they made up a cover story that basically he had to get some teeth pulled while he was on the cruise, and that's why he looked ever so slightly different. And it worked. He went out the end of his term, and no one knew what had happened in the American public. So that was one. The second one was James Buchanan. So Buchanan is generally regarded as the worst president in American history. I know there's a case to be made for some of the newer guys as being particularly weak. But the thing with Buchanan is that he did what he did. He was already kind of a mediocre president, but he was also doing what he was doing right at the break of the Civil War. Sort of a Herbert Hoover situation that already what he was doing wasn't necessarily great, but also the timing made it especially bad. The thing about Buchanan is that he was actually our first and presumably only gay president. Or at least asexual. I don't know. He sure as hell wasn't heterosexual. I know that much for sure. I don't know if he was gay or if he was ace. Regardless, you might wonder how the hell I know this. So, first off, one of the most famous things about Buchanan is that he was the only bachelor president. He's the only president to whom he was not great English. He's the only president who was not married to the First Lady. I think the First Lady was just like a close friend of his. But he never married. Now, I say that, but there was a congressman by the name of William Rufus King. And based on all the information that we have, first off, the lack of information is pretty telling. Not just in the like Sappho and her roommate kind of situation, but in the sense that after Buchanan's death, most of the letters of correspondence between himself and Rufus King were burned by his family. So that is a little bit of a red flag already. The other thing is one of the letters of correspondence that wasn't lost to time wasn't sent to William Rufus King, but was sent to Cornelia Roosevelt. Either on the day of or the day out, very close to the day where, during his second term in office, William Rufus King died. I don't remember the reason off the top of my head, but James Buchanan held like a funeral service and gave this long speech about how he was a great man, perhaps one of the best. You know the deal with funeral like eulogies. And the letter to Cornelia Roosevelt is kind of hilarious because it's so like so many of the articles that I read were like, oh, it's not entirely clear whether or not he was having some sort of affair with William Rufus King. Let me see if I can find the article that I'm thinking of. I'm sorry, I have to dual wield here. Oh yeah, he was also, let's see. He was vice president under Franklin Pierce, right? So he was pretty prolific in the political scene. Yeah, here's one of the things. Andrew Jackson mockingly called him Miss Nancy, and another politician, Aaron Brown, who I don't entirely remember him, referred to King as Buchanan's better half. Oops. Where is the thing that I'm looking for? Yeah, here it is. In May 1844, Buchanan wrote to Cornelia Roosevelt, "I am now solitary and alone, having no companion in the house with me. I have gone a-wooing to several gentlemen, but have not succeeded with any one of them. I feel that it is not good for a man to be alone, and I should not be astonished to find myself married to some old maid." I don't think I've seen this before. Wait, am I going the right way? I think I am. I think that's just a variable 44 thing. Wait. Yeah, this is the right way. Okay, so that is a variable 44 thing. Interesting. I have gone a-wooing to several gentlemen, but have not succeeded with any of them. I feel that it is not good for a man to be alone, and I should not be astonished to find myself married to some old maid who can nurse me when I am sick, provide good dinners for me when I am well, and not expect from me any very ardent or romantic affection. Um... Now, I don't know about you. That is very... I don't know how else you could read that. Like, there is no subtext there. He's outright saying what I think he's saying, which is pretty great. It is kind of a shame, then, that he is considered the worst president in American history, but what can you do there? Seem to be... The reasons for him being worst president in American history have nothing to do with him being gay. It's mainly because he was not a very good president. Now, Pierce is another one that's a bit of a weird case. Not Pierce, freaking Millard Fillmore. He was the one that I was thinking of. So, both of them kind of fall into that category of pre-Civil War presidents that didn't do much of anything. Fillmore, in particular, was known for being... what's the word for it? Not spineless per se, but kinda spineless. Dreary drains, that's... Oh, hey, I got a red wallpaper. I think I've seen that one before. But, Fillmore. He was known for being kind of easy in a bad way. And he would let both sides kind of have their way, and in the time of the Civil War, that was a bad idea. Because in the time of the Civil War, both sides were so divided that if you let both sides have their way, you'd just be pissing off both sides. So already that's a problem. The other issue is that Millard Fillmore has the dubious merit, question mark, of being a member of the Know Nothing Party. Now, if you know anything about the Know Nothing Party, you will instantly know why that's a bad thing. But to those who aren't aware, the Know Nothing Party was essentially the primitive version of the Ku Klux Klan. Now, I've read articles that say, like, he wasn't there for the reasons that a lot of the others were there. He wasn't there for specifically nativist reasons, but based on what I've read, he basically was. He, like, sent letters talking about the dangers of immigration and shit like that. Let's see. Cyclops Room, Southern Path. Hand Passage, right, that's where I gotta go. So that means I have to go up and to the right, this path. So Fillmore already is a little shaky, and then you have that, so it's like, yeah, no. And Pierce, even doing the research that I've done, I remember literally nothing about Franklin Pierce. Pierce is just a nothing president. And I'm sure there are things that he did that, like, hardcore US history nerds could tell me what he did. I don't know. I got nothing. I'll have to do more research to see if there's anything of note. Or anything more than he facilitated this act passing through Congress, which was rather cool. And important for American history. It's like, yeah, that's great. So I'm not gonna remember him for that. It's just... Congrats. He facilitated a law passing through Congress. I'm gonna remember the law, not him. Especially because he's the president. Like... The president definitely helps when it comes to passing laws, but he's not the one that passes the laws. That's Congress. So if there's something happening in Congress, the people that should get a lot of the credit are people like the Speaker of the House and the majority and the minority leaders for making sure that that crap actually gets done. But US history is really fun because there's a lot of just dumb stuff. There's just stuff that no one talks about, and not in the way that's usually like, oh, these things that are so scandalous if they were to come out. Nah, it's more like just they don't talk about it because it's just weird sometimes. Like with the Philippines, people usually don't talk about the Philippines because it wasn't very glamorous. It was one of those, like, we got involved in the Philippines, we kind of succeeded, and then the Philippines wanted to be free, we eventually freed them. It's basically what happened with Cuba, but not quite as flashy. But then there are things like the Guano Island Act that just, I read about this and I have to wonder, how is this real? How have I literally never heard about this before? So, Guano Islands. So for those that don't know, this is just turning into a fun fact thing. Rainy Apartments? 2 stars for Rainy Apartments, eh? How? Yeah, that's what I thought. There's no way in hell you're getting there in two stars. I'm going to assume that what it is that the explorer assumes that you can use the purple city route. Not Purple City, freaking hang on, from Virtual City, Purple River Complex. That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, this is probably what it sees. But you can't go to Rainy Apartments from there, nor can you go when you go from Smiling Trees World. So hey, whatever. Guano, real quick. Before I stop for the day, guano. So guano is really, really, really good fertilizer. Because generally speaking, nitrogen is the good factor when it comes to good fertilizer. The more nitrogen is in fertilizer, the better it'll work. Guano has a ton. The downside, of course, is that not only is guano kind of hard to find, it's really cumbersome because guano, bat guano is what comes to mind. Bat guano is toxic itself and also lets off toxic vapor. And there's a whole set of islands called the Guano Islands, which the US gained possession of in part because of the guano and the potential application for fertilizer. So that's my TED Talk. That's about all I got for now, I guess. Thanks so much for watching.